All right, what's up, guys? It's your girl, Butta P. You are here listening to Kicking It with Butter. I got my girl, Esther Brunat, in the building with me. And I was just showing her this new pair of sneakers I just got. They are Adidas. They are the New York Arshams. I don't even know how to pronounce them, but they're pretty fire. So the packaging, I'm going to post some pictures online so you guys can kind of see how dope it is. But when you open up the box, it's actually got like this little string on it, and you've got to like peel the whole piece of string to open up the box. And you open it up. It's got a dust bag on top. Pretty dope. And I was just sharing with Esther, right?
Yes,
are you digging them?
I am.
All white?
I've never owned a pair of Adidas shoes.
What?
I know.
What size do you wear?
8.5.
I got you. I'm going to hook you up.
Yes, please.
So how do you not own a pair of Adidas? You work at a high school.
Exactly. The kids are like I wear my Roshis, and they're like, Miss Brunat, nobody wears Roshis anymore.
Not at all. Well, Kanada's got a pair on, I think. But
you wear Roshis.
Actually, no, he's got his Yeezys on, which actually we're probably going to have to retire the Yeezys. But anyway, no, we're not retiring Yeezys. No? Okay. Kanada's the white. Whatever. Anyways, so I've got these all white, right? You digging them?
Yeah.
All white. These are pretty dope. Realize there's
frayed stitching going
frayed
on over
stitching
here.
Canvas.
Yeah.
Right? Got this phone number in the back. Not really sure what that is. Esther's gonna call it in a little bit.
Call it.
Check it out. So I'm gonna post some pictures of these on my Instagram feed so you guys can check out. But the best part of these sneakers, guys, is that I actually found these with my husband at Marshall's. I don't even know if I should tell you guys the goodness.
I don't know.
Like, do I tell my secrets? $39.99, guys. $39.99. So I'm gonna post a picture online. You guys are gonna dig them, and don't ask me for them because you're not getting them. I'm gonna surprise some people and wear them to, I don't know, because I don't really have shows anymore, but I'll wear them somewhere amazing. Cool. You liking the sneakers?
I love it.
Dope. All right, so you just said you don't own a pair of Adidas.
I don't.
That's quite surprising to me because you work at a high school, so I would think that you would choose to be fashion forward at a high school.
I want to be, and the kids make, like, I can't even wear sneakers because they're going to, like, they'll be like, yo, Miss Brunat, like, get your life together.
Okay, so are you a shoe person? Would you consider yourself a shoe person?
I'm not. I know, that's
no,
crazy.
You're not?
I'm not.
So are you like the person that wear like Toms, like one pair of Toms, and that's all you wear for the rest of the year?
I do own a pair of Toms. My first pair was like, had like math, like a cloth that like had like math equations and stuff like that because I'm a math teacher. So like my shoes, they have to be super versatile. Like I should be able to wear them with like 15,000 different things. And then, I don't know, like, I don't really like closed-toed shoes like that a lot. So that's
okay. So you're a Florida girl.
Yeah.
So let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
You're
so
Florida
I like
girl.
my toes out.
So mostly sandals, right?
Yep.
So what would you say? What is the most expensive shoe you probably have ever bought, and how much were they? Do you remember?
Ooh, I have my most expensive shoe. I'm pretty sure is a pair of Fergalicious, like, I think they're called Fergalicious, and they're open-toed, like brown leather sandals with like a block heel, like a wooden block heel. I love them. They're super comfortable. I've had them for a couple years now, and they cost me like $60.
Whoa, big spender.
I'm a teacher. You gotta watch that coin.
Yo, true that. Poor teachers, man. You got, shout out to all the teachers in my high school. Yo, my teachers were quite stylish. I can say that. I think a lot of the teachers when I was in school, they were pretty stylish.
Yeah, I mean, my kids compliment me and stuff like that. Sometimes they rash on me too, but.
So when you pull up on with your Roshis, they're not feeling them.
The first year they were, when Roshis were cool.
When it was popping.
Right. They were like, oh, now you got Roshis. And I was feeling myself. And then
2 years later, you
right.
still got the Roshis, and they're like, nah.
Miss Brunat, we can't even talk to you. Like, no joke, a kid said that. Yo, Miss Brunat, like, if you wearing Roshis, like, I can't even talk to you.
They don't know the struggle.
They know.
That's because their
They
parents are
don't.
spoiling them. So I wanted to bring you on. So guys, I didn't even introduce you. So my girl Esther Brunat is here with me. She is one of my former, I don't even know what to call you.
I don't either.
But I guess mentees or whatever.
Yeah.
I've known you since you were probably about 14.
14-ish. Yeah, I would guess that too.
Crazy. So about 10 years, right?
14 years. I'm 28.
14. Okay. So about 14 years. Met you at church. You were one of our students that we would mentor. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's always stuck out about me, well, two things. Your laugh. It's always contagious. I love it.
That a lot.
I can hear you from anywhere. I know Esther's in the building. And the other thing that I've always been impressed with is your friendship with your best friend. So we're going to talk about that today. And also, just a little bit about what you do for a living and all that stuff. I just want people to get to know you. Mm-hmm. So share with me a little bit about your journey about, traveling, how you became a teacher, how the heck did you end up teaching math at freaking Taravella High School?
I know.
Out of all places.
Well, I grew up in church. I'm a church kid. So when you get out of youth group, it's like, what do you do when you go to church? Oh, you just need to be a youth leader, right? So I figured that's just the natural progression. So, but I realized I had liked it. I was a camp counselor, and I enjoyed it. So I was in college. I thought I was going to be a business major. I was trying to be the manager of some corporation or something like that. And then I failed accounting. And I was like, what? Because my teacher was fine. And I was like, if you can't pass the class and your teacher's fine, there's no hope for you. So I dropped out of business. And for some weird reason, Broward College was just then opening up teacher education programs to get a 4-year degree. Mm. And I had already had a full ride to the school. So I was like, well, I know I like high schoolers, so why not try this? And I was pretty good at math in high school, all A's and B's. I wasn't a genius or nothing like that, but I got it. So I was like, well, it seems like it's right to me, So I did that. And I'm super thankful because I graduated debt-free, which is a huge thing.
Come on, somebody.
Basically got paid to go to school. And then, so right after college, I was looking for jobs. I thought I really wanted to work at a Christian school, and the Christian school over here, interviewed me, said they loved me, and then never called me back.
Liars. Christians liars. Wow. How dare they?
I was super salty. And so I was talking to somebody, actually, Jonathan Manning, Pastor Tom's son, and he was like, you should look overseas. Overseas schools are always looking.
I remember that.
Yep.
Because that was when they first got here,
yes.
So he knew all about that.
Exactly. So I went to go look up his school, but it was too cold in Vienna.
We don't do snow.
No. But it sent me to a website called missionteach.com, and I put my resume up, and probably 5 or 6 schools got back to me within a week. But I ended up choosing to go to Panama because Panama was going to fly me out there. They were going to pay for my housing. They were going to provide a stipend. And whenever I was ready to go back home, they were going to fly me back home too. And healthcare was included. So I wasn't making buku money or anything like that. But I was like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. So I decided to get on a plane literally 30 days after I had said yes and move overseas to Panama, a place that I had never been, barely ever heard of. All I knew is they had a canal. That's all I know
from school. So what was that experience like? Because you were there, 3 years? So what was that experience? So you didn't speak the language.
Right.
There's no one really there that looks like you.
Right.
So what did that experience look like for you?
So when I first, let's talk about me getting to the airport. They were like, okay, we're going to be there waiting for you with a sign that says Esther on it. And I'm like, okay, great. But, and I had originally changed my ticket to come back, my original ticket was in the morning, and then my ticket that we changed it to was at night, right? So I get there earlier than I thought I was gonna get there, and nobody's there. But we had changed the ticket weeks before, right? So I'm like, nobody's here. And all I knew was Nadine told me before I left, I was like, guys, I'm moving, da, da, da. And she was like,
Don't
do you
get
know
robbed.
where you going? Yeah, she was like gave me took it with, when they say take it with a grain of salt, like that was Nadine. She was my salt. Like she was like, Esther, you need to go look this place up. You need to go make sure it's legit. You need to go find some people on the ground. So what I ended up doing was I had contacted some Assemblies of God missionaries on the ground to see if the school was legit, right? And so I just found them on the AG website, and I found some people. So when I'm at the airport, nobody's there. I panic, and I'm like, okay, let me call.
I just got hustled.
So this missionary lady said, here's my number just in case you need anything. So I went up to the lady, speaking no Spanish at all. I was like, telefono, like I just need to call this number. So she calls the number, and I get on the phone with this lady named Julie Bell. And she's like, I'll see what I could do for you. And she knew the people at the school. She actually had helped found the school, which was really funny. And she calls them. They get to the airport maybe 15 minutes later, and my boss then looks at me like, how do you know Julie Bell? Because like she was kind of like a big deal. Like, how would I know that? You know what I mean? So that was kind of how my life started in Panama. So fortunately enough, I worked at an American school. And all the teachers were American, well, most of them. And so people that I hung out with or did life with, went to church with, we went to an American church. So I should be fluent in Spanish, but shame on me, I'm not. I speak what I call survival Spanish. Like I can order my steak and go to the grocery store and catch a cab.
And cash your check.
Right, exactly. So that was like the struggle, but not really. I really enjoyed it. And those were, I tell people all the time, like the best 3 years of my life. Like those were like my glory days. I'm trying to find my new glory days. But
you still have relationships with some of the students from there, right? Because aren't you going back soon to like someone's wedding or something?
Yeah. So I just got actually invited to one of my kids' wedding next year too. Next June, she got engaged like a couple weeks ago. She's like, hey, I would really love you if you came to my wedding. I would like you to say a scripture, like read a scripture at the wedding. Like these are like the deep relationships that I had formed while I was over there. I would have never guessed that that's what was going to come out of there. You know, like the other day, I drove up to Orlando to see one of my girls that I had not seen since I left. And we've been trying to catch each other. Like I'd be in Atlanta and she was like just leaving Atlanta, whatever. So she was in Orlando, so I went up to go see her. And I met her boyfriend, who she's really serious with, that they're probably going to get married to. Like, so those relationships, I think I'll have them forever. And it taught me like what true discipleship and what true like building relationships with people is like. Like you guys did a really good job with us when we were younger, like doing life with us, bringing us to your house, going shopping, doing like ridiculous things, whatever. So when I got to Panama, I was like, well, this is what my people did with me. So like, I'm just going to go ahead and do this with the girls. And they were over at my house. We went to the movies. Their parents would have me over. When their parents were out of town, they would ask me to babysit. Like, it was just like on a whole nother level.
That's awesome.
It was the best.
So would you say it's something that you would recommend for young people who are looking for an experience?
Highly. Like,
you don't know what you want to do? Go to Panama and teach.
Oh my gosh. People sometimes people come up to me like, hey, I'm looking at this opportunity. What would you, I'm like, if you're looking for somebody to talk you out of it, I'm not the one. Like, if you're having reservations and you need somebody to tell you no, like, I'm not the one. I'm going to tell you to go. Like, do it however you're going to get there.
I should, pitch a sponsorship deal with that company, that organization, and get you some money.
I know.
Be their spokesperson.
Mission Teacher's probably broke. Sponsoring missionaries.
I think they got a few bucks.
They probably
especially
do.
if they's AG. Listen, so how long has it been since you've been back from Panama?
It's going to be 3 years in like a month and a half.
3 years. So what has that looked like in the transition period? Because how long have you been teaching?
6. This I'm finishing year 6 right now.
So how long have you been teaching here in America?
It'll be the 3rd year.
3rd year. So you came from Panama, came back here and started teaching.
3 years over 3 seas, 3 years here.
And all 3 years have been Terravella.
Mm-hmm.
So how has that been compared to, what do these spoiled American kids look like compared to Panamanian kids?
So I will say this, that I worked at a private school in Panama, and I did not work with poor kids, like or third world country kids or whatever. Like I worked with
Well, they were missionary kids, right?
Some of them were
Okay.
missionary kids, but some of them were just regular kids whose parents owned businesses. And I mean, people like, I would have never guessed that they were wealthy because they carried themselves so well. But they were like, a lot of my kids were really wealthy or doing better than the average Joe, you know? So that was one of the things that surprised me when I started figuring it out. I was like, yo, like, why is your first car a Mercedes? You know what I mean? But they were just
struggling.
Yeah. So that was very interesting to me. What I appreciated the most was the tight-knit community and how everybody kind of like relied on everybody, because no matter what your socioeconomic status was, it was kind of everybody kind of struggled because like the country wasn't like as advanced as
got it.
Right, America,
Yeah.
right? Like, so you couldn't just be every man for himself in Panama, no matter how well off you were, right? You always needed somebody for something. So I think that's one of the things that like set apart the experience from working there to working here. So when I got here, like I could hang out with my kids over there. Their parents would invite me over. When working here, like I cannot do nothing outside of school with my kids. Like the other day, one of my kids was like, "Yo, Miss Brunat, let's have a beach party." I'm like, I like my job.
Okay, so let's talk about that a second. So that type of stuff you can't do. Like, what is the boundary with your students here in America?
I would say that I know that some people like kind of sort of do it, but it's really frowned upon because, you know, I'm sure somebody once upon a time did something that they were not supposed to do. So, like, we are not, there's a lot of red tape around it. Like, I would have to get permissions and, you know, notarized documents and whatever. So we just don't do anything with our students outside of the school umbrella.
So, like, if some of your students were going to be at the beach on Saturday and they'd be like, Miss Brunat, why don't you come kick it with us? And you're like, all right, I'll meet you there.
I would not.
You would not. Is that by
Unless I knew
choice or
there
is that
was-
because of just the red tape that's there?
Because of the red tape.
Interesting.
If there were parents there, that would be a different story, right? Like if I knew parents were going to be there and the parents were the primary source of approaching me about it, I would feel differently and I would feel like I could do that under that umbrella. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But outside of that, no.
Why do you think that has happened?
I think because maybe once upon a time a school teacher took advantage of their privilege and then, you know, ruined it for the rest of us. And a parent probably sued the school. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so schools, you know, get in trouble for that kind of stuff, or they just completely
That's
nix
crazy.
it.
The reason why I ask is because one of the most influential people in my life, right? Someone who
Right.
has been there since I was 14 years old. She is my daughter's godmother. She was like my second mother. I don't do the whole I love my mom. Like,
Right,
I got one
exactly.
mom. But this lady stepped in and like changed my world, right? She was my high school art teacher. I've talked about her with everybody. I know, right?
Right.
Cindy. Shout out to Cindy.
Yeah, Cindy.
But she played a huge role in my life. Like, I met her when I was 14. I never forget the first time I saw her. She was just who I needed in my life for that season. I didn't know that at 14, but I was
Yeah.
like, dude, she's so cool. And she was like one of the coolest teachers in school. I mean, everybody loved her.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think it was in 9th grade, I got kicked off the school bus.
No.
I did. I got kicked off for fighting a guy, right?
What? You were fighting
I was
guys?
a savage, absolutely. But no, it was a friend of mine, and we're on the school sidebar. We're on the school bus. I don't even remember what we were arguing about, and I just got completely disrespectful, and I spit on my friend, right?
my
So
word.
I get kicked off the school bus. So I go home, tell my parents like, yo, I need a ride to school. And my dad's like, what? What happened? So I was like, I got in trouble, whatever. So my dad takes me to school. He drops me off. He says, listen, this is the last time I'm taking you to school. I got to be at work, whatever. You better figure it out how you're going to get to school. So I'm like, yo, like, I live mad far from the school. Like, I need to get on
So
the
you
school
lost
bus.
your bus privileges.
I lost my bus privilege for
Oh,
the
not
rest of the
just the
school year.
day. Oh,
No, for the rest
my
of the school year.
gosh.
Mind you, school had like recently just started. Like, it was only like a few months in. So I was like, dang. So I told my teacher, I told Cindy, her name was Miss Estes at the time, shout out. And, I can't get on the school bus, so I'm tripping, like, after school. And one day she's like, what's going on, right? And I'm like, I don't have a ride home. And she's like, what do you mean you don't have a ride home? Like, where's your bus? And I'm like, and I didn't want to tell her what happened. So finally I told her, long story short. So that woman, this freaking angel of a teacher, picked me up for school. But not only just for a few days, like, she picked me up for school every day for the rest of my high school years until I graduated high school.
Wow. And since freshman year all the way?
Freshman year.
Did she live next to you?
She did not.
Wow.
That was crazy. So she probably lived she actually had to pass my high school in order to come pick me up, and then we would go to the school.
No.
So every day she picked me up. And so, there was other stuff she did.
I mean, she's actually... I don't know about.
I know, right? Like, she was definitely a blessing. Like, I talk about her all the time because she's definitely not a normal, teacher. But, I mean, she did stuff for other students. But for me personally, like, I know God placed her in my life for a reason. She's actually what helped me introduce me to this whole sneaker addiction, because I was always, I wasn't bad. I just would get in trouble. But if I would get my grades right or whatever, she would reward me. She'd be like, listen, if you get yourself together, I got you. I'm going to buy you some kicks.
Okay.
So I'm like, cool. I want those new Jordans. But,
I did not know this.
Yeah. So that was always my reward. But she was such an amazing teacher. But, conversations I have with other teachers, when I tell them that, they're like, yo, I would get fired now for something like that. So I'm just always curious because of course, I feel like my story is different. She just went over and beyond. But I'm just always curious because I see the students now and the behaviors they have. Yeah. And I'm just always curious, and maybe you can answer this, do you think that a lot of their behaviors stems from not actually being able to build closer relationships with teachers?
I would say 100%, because kids that I hear, oh, this kid is so bad, this kid's getting suspended, like, in my class, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that kid's never been like that with me or disrespected me in any kind of way like that. I have a thing for kind of like that crazy kid, like, because I don't know anything about them when they walk into my class or anything like that.
So everyone's got clean slate.
Right. I don't do any background research, which some people would say is bad, but whatever. Like, so I don't know they just walk into my classroom and, turns out this kid has an attitude problem, or turns out this kid is commonly in IS, internal suspension. Turns out this kid, is cussing out teachers left and right because they told them to stop doing this, that, and the other. And I could tell that kid to stop doing this, that, and the other, plus another this, that, and the other. And they would be like, all right.
So are you like one of the cool teachers at Terravella?
I'm totally the cool teacher.
They love Miss Brunat. Oh, snap.
I'm not even I don't even feel like I'm tooting my own horn, because they'll say the same things, like, they'll throw shade a little bit, but they love me, like, I love them. They're like, can you teach the next class? Like, if they're in algebra, they're like, are you going to teach geometry? We want you to teach geometry. If they're in geometry, they're like, can you teach algebra too? We want you next year. And I'm always like, I paid my dues.
So outside of you teaching them math, right? What are some other, like, do you get to have other moments with them, just like life moments? Like, do they come to you like after a breakup, or they didn't make this basketball team, or do you have heart to hearts with them like that?
I would say yes. They're fewer and far between than when I was in Panama. But I'm trying to leave room for that a little bit more, and that's hard for me to kind of find that space because I have a curriculum that I need to get through or whatever. So I'm a lot of business. I'm trying to learn to be chill at the beginning of class. Usually I'm like, no, this is your warm up, get to work, don't talk to me, whatever. But I have a kid, for instance, that she always got a story. She walks into class Miss
Brunat.
Yes.
Let me tell you about last night.
So yesterday she walks in and she's like, Mr. Such and Such it decided to give me IS because I cussed out a teacher. Why are you cussing out teachers? So she'll tell me stories about that. She'll tell me stories about, I got it, my dad got me in trouble, and then I got to church, and then I got in trouble, and then I got in trouble. I get in trouble everywhere. But she's never in trouble with me, but so I'm trying to leave room for that. So I've gotten a couple stories hey, Miss Brunat, I'm talking to this girl, what do you think? or, this is where we're at in a relationship, or, a kid will come in one day, she was like, she looked a little off, and I was like, what's up with you? And she was like, nothing, like, but like you could tell something was
Nothing but
wrong
something
though.
wrong, yeah.
And come to find out, she broke up with her boyfriend, right? That's why she was logging in like, I am woman, like, I run this, don't let me, and then 2 weeks later, she's like, my friend invited me over.
Oh, gosh.
And then he bought me food. So we're back together.
High school love.
Right.
Aww.
So I get the stories. One of my kids walked in. He's like, yo, Miss Brunat, like, I just got a gig. Like, he's a trumpet player, and he just got a gig to, like, play with, like, some orchestra or something like that. So I'm starting, it happens more towards the end of the year because we have a little bit more time now.
Got it, yeah.
So they're coming. I wish I knew how to make more time for it, if that makes sense.
So, okay, let's let people know. So, with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, right?
Right.
Down the street from us.
Yeah.
Right? How was that for you, being in the high school? The shooting is happening. Did you guys find out about it at the school? Did you find out afterwards? Like, what was that day like for you?
Okay, so I had 2 kids in my class after school. One of them was getting help, and the other one was just hanging out. And we're, like, doing homework or whatever, and my custodian walks in, and my custodian's like, hey, they're trying to get everybody out of here. And
This was the day of?
This was the day of.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's up? And I could tell, he would tell me, but once the kids left, like, I could just kind of read his face. So I was like, all right, guys, you guys got to go. If you need anything, like, I have a little texting service. I was like, just text me. And so they left, and I was like, yo, Mike, what's up? And he was like, there was a shooting, like, there's a armed gunman at Stoneman Douglas, so they're just trying to get everybody out of here just in case because they haven't found him yet. And I was like, okay. So I hadn't heard any fatalities or anything like that. So I clear my stuff out. I go home and I turn on the news. And it was surreal to me because last year our school had a code red, which is, somebody's armed in the building, right? Ours ended up being a false alarm. A kid had brought like a fake gun or something like that. But we were locked in the classrooms for 4.5 hours, kids peeing in buckets, like, because,
Crazy.
And so I was like, well, this is not real. Like, it's just somebody
Playing around.
Right, exactly. They'll find him. It'll be fake. It'll be fine, right? And then we found out there was 17 fatalities. And, like, it was like life changed, right? Like, the game, it was different now, So we're having staff meetings. People are angry, because they want safety. They want to ensure that people are going to be safe. No kids showed up to school for the rest of the week. Like, I had like 5-6 kids in every class, something like that, and parents just wanted to know that their kids were going to be safe. We had extra cops at the school, just for the illusion of safety. But I mean, there's almost really nothing that you can do unless we make our schools look like prisons. There's nothing, you know what I mean? And I don't want to go to work in a prison. Like, I don't want 8 feet walls. I don't want to go through a metal detector. I don't think our kids should have to do that either. Because you hear about this country, about the school to prison pipeline. Like, if it's already bad enough, as people are saying, like, then I don't need my little black boys growing up in a place where, we're doing that to them and training them for that kind of behavior or whatever. So my life has changed in the sense that, like, we've always been supposed to keep our doors locked. Like, since Sandy Hook happened, like, that was a thing across the board. Everybody lock your doors. But I was never a door locker because my kids are always in and out. Like, the laptop.
So you guys actually lock the doors, or meaning just close it.
Right, and keep it so that, like, you can't come in from the outside unless you have a key. Those are the rules. I never did that because I had the laptop cart in my room. Kids in study hall needed to come get it. So, and then, like, if a kid needs to go to the bathroom, it's annoying for that one kid by the door to keep getting up to go open the door. So I always had my door open. And I just remember the day after our SRO, our school resource officer, was coming around. And I was in my planning period. I like my door open during my planning period because I don't want to feel alone. Like, I don't know why that helps, like, having the door open, but I just leave it open. And he was like, yo, you need to keep this shut. Like, and And so it started to change. So now I'm very careful. Like, I always used to, like, leave the door cracked or something like that. I always keep it shut, like, at the beginning of class, like, immediately, hey, you such and such, please go close that door or whatever. And when I realized that it got bad was, like, now if somebody walks by the door, I immediately, like, look to see who it is. If I hear a weird noise down the hallway, like, I flinch now. And I remember the first couple of days, like, the kids, like, if like anything kind of loud happened outside in the hallway, they all flinched. And I was like, who wants to go to school, like, in a world where that's what you're kind of feeling, you know? My first period has this joke. It's funny, but it's not funny. Where, like, when somebody knocks at the door, one of my kids who's, like, sits next to my door, he gets up and he, like, makes the person, he's like, hands up, turn around, pat your pocket, and then he, like, opens the door. It's, like, a joke now, but, like.
But he's serious. He's like, yo, you think I'm joking, but I need you to turn around, bro.
It's like, yo, Miss B, I'm trying to protect y'all.
One thing I've learned with kids, though, with young people, they're resilient, right?
Yes.
They're able to bounce back. But what was that conversation like with your students after the shooting? Like,
it was very interesting because you could see, like, the little activists kind of, like, rise up in some kids. Like, kids started who, like, I have a girl who's, like, your typical goody two-shoes student, gets all her work done, doesn't really talk a lot in class, whatever. When we were having these conversations, like, afterwards about what they think should be done and stuff like that, like, all of a sudden her voice was loud and clear. Like, we need to change our gun laws. We need to, like, call our politicians, like, things that I don't picture our kids, like, they're so engrossed in Snapchat and social, like, I don't see them being real human beings sometimes. And then
little robots.
Yeah. So when they started to speak up and express their opinions about stuff like that, it impressed me, that at that age they could be, so we had a couple walkouts, the national ones that were happening, and our students participated and rallied and made signs and stuff like that. And that was very interesting to me to watch them kind of do that. And those conversations were good conversations. And then you have the kids who were shook.
Yeah.
Like, really sad, didn't talk for a couple of days. I remember having my students, because some teacher at Douglas had wanted letters, like, hey, could you guys just write letters to our students or whatever? But then the principal was like, hey, pump your brakes, because the whole nation was sending them letters, right? I remember having my students write letters to the kids at Stoneman Douglas, and it was interesting to see which kids were empathetic, leaving their, a lot of times my kids for play will, like, put their Snapchat name or their Instagram name, but they were doing it this time, not for exposure, but like, hey, if you need somebody to talk to,
Hit me up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, look at these, and I just remember one of these kids who I would have never thought, he's a little kid, he sits in the front, he's quiet, put a Bible verse on there. He was like, if you ever, like, when I'm having a tough time, this is what I look to or whatever. And I was like, what? Like, I was like, look at you, So it changed my perspective a lot with what they're capable of, what they're processing, and different stuff like that. So
I think, that situation that happened woke a lot of people up. I think young people, I think it woke up adults. I think it woke up a lot of leaders who were sleeping.
Yeah.
Right. I remember going. My aunt came to visit, and so I took her, to the school, and so it was like fresh, like it had just recently happened. So I took her, and she couldn't for her, she's like, I can't understand how something like this would happen. And she's looking at the school, and she's like, this is such a beautiful campus, right? And so the interesting thing about my aunt is that she spent over 30 years working with the police department in Pennsylvania, right? So she's speaking to me from a different perspective.
Yeah.
She's speaking from the police perspective. So, just explaining how we need more security. You guys need more security. You need more guns, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And but I can understand her perspective,
Exactly.
even though I don't agree with the perspective, but I was able to sit and, because I think sometimes we could just get caught in our own idea of what should happen, right?
Yes.
But then you actually sit and hear the other side, and it's like, man, how do we secure these schools, you know? But then it's like, but we try to secure them, but then we're, like you said, we're building prisons, right? And I think for me, one thing I learned as an adult and as a mentor through this process was that these kids know what they want.
Yeah.
And I think we have limited who they are because we feel like, oh, all you guys care about social media and da-da-da-da.
Exactly.
But I think this was a great example of how powerful this generation is. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I said, if this doesn't speak volumes of how powerful that generation is, then you're just choosing to be blind to the power that they have. Like these kids are able to shift and change what's about to happen. But I think, you know, what was good from what I noticed, people were willing to hear both sides, why we should have stricter gun laws, why we shouldn't, what freedoms are we losing, what, you know, all those things. And I think these students, they're so much better than us because they're willing to listen to both sides. Where I think our generation is like, nah, bruh, we got the answers. And these kids are like, no, you don't. Like, that's why this happened.
Exactly.
And so I just think, you know, it's like how you're saying, you're able to see your students rise up and you're like, wow, like you actually do have a voice and you're actually using it for something empowering, you know? Does that encourage you as a leader?
Oh my gosh, yes. When I saw those Stoneman Douglas kids like rallying the entire
I
country,
was in tears. I was like, oh my God.
I know. I was like, I want to be your teacher. I was like, how do I be your teacher? You know, I felt proud.
Yeah. I mean, they were able to gather everybody for this march, like all
in
over
Washington.
the world.
Yeah, that was insane to me. That is so grassroots.
I think it's impressive, even if you don't agree with their stance, you've got to be impressed with how they were able to move.
And you gotta want to listen too. Like after they do that, it's not like you can't write those kids off.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, you're just a kid saying whatever. It makes you want to listen, which is why like I don't understand, or it's hard for me to like look at politicians and be like, how did you not just listen to them?
They just got their talking points. So let me ask you this, because of politicians, right? So now they're starting to make decisions for you guys, right? It's been mentioned, all these things. Well, now the kids at Douglas now have clear backpacks. They're wanting to add more police officers to the campuses. And they're wanting to give weapons
to teachers.
What's your take on that? You trying to carry a gun?
Am I trying to carry a gun? No. Like, I made a whole video about this on my Instagram. And I think that's ludicrous. I really do think that's ludicrous because, one, the thought that it would take for me to like go get a weapon after I secure the kids, and then to potentially want me to shoot a former student, that's a big, like, I don't think people realize. Like that kid went to Douglas. You want me to shoot one of my former babies? Like, that's crazy, you know?
Even if he was crazy?
I
mean, you're not thinking like that,
right?
Though. Yeah.
You know, I would just be shook. Like, and I think in that moment, if I ever had to go through something like that, I would be very conscious of the 25 or 28, whatever kids that were currently in my classroom. Like, how do I keep you guys safe? And I understand that, like, shooting that one person might save, like, a couple more lives. I would be more willing to give my life than to shoot somebody else. I think 1,000 times. 1,000 times.
To save those kids.
Yeah. And then my other part of that is, like, you don't know my coworkers. Like, I don't really know my coworkers, and I know some of them is crazy. Like,
I mean, I think.
I don't know that I want some of them having guns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Since this has happened, there have already been stories about teachers misfiring guns. You know what I mean? And then people are talking about, which I didn't even think of, you know, with all the stories about police violence and police brutality or whatever. Somebody said the other day, like, you don't think that this is just going to turn into like teachers shooting black kids? And I was like, oh. You know,
Crazy.
like on accident or, so I think it's too messy.
I just feel like they've already given teachers responsibility,
Yes.
right? Like your job is to go and teach, right? It's bad enough they don't even give y'all money to buy y'all supplies.
Yeah.
Like that throws me off every year when I see all these teachers going to go buy their own supplies. Or as a parent, right? I got this list.
Right.
Now I've just spent $50 on school supplies. I'm like, bruh.
And you're contributing to the classroom.
I paid taxes.
Yes.
And it's like, I need 37 erasers. I got one daughter. Why should I need 37 erasers?
Right.
Oh, because it's for second and third grade. It's like, hold on a second.
Yep.
But I think, they don't, they've given you guys enough stuff to worry about, right? You guys have already these drills in place to secure these kids. So to add on having a weapon is just like, man, that's just another. And I don't think everybody's built for that. I don't think everyone has the mental capacity for that, even if you're trained.
Yeah.
Like you'll never know until you're put in that situation. And then, what if you don't respond? Then are you held accountable?
Right? Exactly.
Like, what if you have a gun and then your class still gets shot up or something? But like the police officer that was there, right? He didn't come in the building. So he's being held responsible for that. But are teachers now held responsible for, hey, you didn't respond by shooting? Like,
Yeah, there's some crazy legislation. Yeah, exactly. And there's some crazy legislation about like schools. I forget, like in Kansas or something like that, where the like if the schools don't arm teachers and
something
happens, then the school is liable.
That's crazy.
Like that's what kind of legislation they're passing, and they're passing this legislation under
something else.
Yes,
because people don't want to take the blame. So instead of them actually addressing the problem straight up, like, yo, we got a gun problem.
Right.
Let's cover it up in other stuff, and then we'll give the blame to the state or whatever. I think it's crazy, but it's a scary thing where we're at because, like what you said earlier, you already have. Imagine, right? You're a teacher. You always got that one kid that just want to be a pain in your butt in class, right? So imagine you just having a real crappy day.
Yeah.
And someone's going to threaten that little bum and be like, bro, don't make me pull out my gun on you, right? That's all it takes.
Yes.
And then that fool gonna be like, oh, pull it out. And then before you know it, a gun is pulled. And
under the stress of a situation, like, you'll say a lot of things to get a kid to
just sit down. Like, yo, I got a 9 in my pocket now. Like,
I need you to settle down.
So I think that's crazy that they're asking you guys for that. I think I saw your Instagram. Wasn't it an Instagram story that you did or something like that? About talking about the gun, them giving you a gun?
No, it was a video.
Oh, okay.
I had made a video. This was like a post. Like usually it's just stories, but I had made a whole video because I was like, I felt some type of way that week.
She's like, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
So, yo, Instagram, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about Instagram real quick.
Let's talk about it.
So you're becoming a little bit of an Instagram star.
I'm trying, yeah.
You've passed me, which I'm a little bitter about.
Are you a little bitter about? I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my goals. I was like, okay, the most famous person I know on Instagram right now is Butta P. So if I pass her, I'll feel like I accomplished something.
So you have. I think you passed me.
I think I might have, yeah.
You passed me by like 200 people.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it might be a little bit more or whatever.
It's nothing.
So
really.
I was on your Instagram the other day. I was like, yo, she passed me. That's dope. I haven't been doing much of anything. Just posting pictures of my kids. No one cares anymore. They're like, yo, I don't care about your kids. Drop some music. I'm
dead.
But you passed me an Instagram follow. So your goal is to get 10,000 by August. Right?
Yes.
So talk to me about who's your I don't even know what to call
audience?
them. Who's your audience? I was gonna say your fan base because as a music person.
Right.
So who's your audience on Instagram?
Okay, so my audience is definitely teachers.
Teachers,
right?
All right. The ones that don't want guns.
Right, right. The ones that don't want guns, because there's a group of them that
want.
Yeah,
oh,
so.
shoot. Okay. They're the ones wearing the Make America, whatever. Go ahead.
So, I think earlier this school year, I started a blog last year, and I was like, I was talking to a girl who has a successful blog, and she was talking about her Instagram, how it kind of just goes with it. So I was like, okay, so let me just step up my Instagram game or whatever. And I stumbled upon this crazy community of teachers that I did not know existed. Like, there are Insta-famous teachers. Like, so when I stumbled upon them, I was like, oh, this is crazy. So I thought, okay, because a lot of them shared lesson plans, and
this is how I do. This is the song I sing to teach them.
This is the
science.
activity that I use. Blah 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 blah. So I was like, okay, Esther. I mean, you do some cool stuff in the classroom. Try this out. And so I started like that with like basic blog posts and whatever. Anyway, one day, one of my kids, because they're obsessed with me and my lack of a boyfriend.
Oh my God.
Because I try my best to build relationships with them, so because they feel close to me, they feel like they can ask me questions like that, right? So one day, one of my kids is like, hey, Miss Brunat, you got a boyfriend? No, I do not have a boyfriend. It's probably because you stuck up. I was like, what? What kind of vibes am I putting off that would make you
right, because you bougie.
Right, exactly. So I remember I told this story on my stories. I was like, y'all never guess what happened to me, blah, 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 blah. And I told everybody. And people were DMing me like, this is so funny. That is hilarious that they feel like. So then once I noticed that my kids always like try my love life. I started to pick up on like all the different funny things that they kind of do throughout the day. And I started storying about them. And stories have become a thing on Instagram now, right? So it's kind of, they are more popular than Snapchat stories for sure.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just going to make it a show. Like, so every day I try my best to have like daily stories of like what funny things that the kids did in the classroom. So this has become my fan base. What really put me over the edge and what made me feel like I could like actually keep doing it, or people were liking it, I should say, is there's this teacher on Instagram who was on Ellen because he had a video go viral for like pranking his kids, right? Which I'm like, I need to prank my kids now. Like, and we became friends. Like, I just like slid into his DMs one day.
She slid into the teacher's DM. I don't know what that. Okay, I'm gonna write a song about it.
So,
she said I slid into. I hope he doesn't have a girlfriend.
No. And so we became friends, right? So we would chat every now and then. Like, I'll comment on his stories, he'll comment on mine. And one day, out of the blue, it wasn't even funny. Like, that story was kind of funny, but it wasn't like my best story or nothing like that. But he like shouted me out, and he was like, "Yo, if y'all not following this girl right here, like
on Ellen's show, right?
No, not while he was on Ellen. On his Instagram.
Yeah,
he probably has like 100,000 followers or something like that. And I was like, yo, if you're not following this girl, like, you need to get your life right, something like that, right? 1,700 people in 24 hours, right? And I was like, oh my gosh. So that's when I realized like I had something, because people were like, oh my gosh, this is so funny, like. And now I get a lot of, yo, if I don't have time for Instagram, you're on the top of my list. Like, I go find you.
Yo,
like,
your stories are hilarious.
And I just, like, I don't even know how it happened. It's just kind of a thing that happened. Like,
they're funny. I'll tell you why. Because first of all, you work at a high school, so there's always funny crap that happens with these teenagers, right? But then you have you're good at storytelling. So like it's just comical, like, to watch it. Like, you posted something the other day that had me crying. Like, you always, I think what's funny is that like they try to play you and you end up playing your kids
all the time.
And I think that's hilarious.
All the time.
So do your students follow you?
They do. They creep. They don't follow me. They creep.
And like, let me see if she's gonna talk about me today.
Right, exactly. Like, so now it's a joke, right? Like, I'll be in class, I'm like, what you doing? Like, you gonna story about this later? Like
he's like, yep. You just giving me content.
Yes, exactly. They're like, no, Miss Brunat, don't put me on blast. You know, like, Miss Brunat be exposing people on. Like, I just laugh, but They're a hoot.
So what is your goal with it? Like what, you're building a community. Well, first of all, how do you even find a community of teachers? And then what does that look like? Like you guys just start connecting together? Like do you guys have like a private chat room? Like what is that like? Really?
So let me tell you, somebody said something to me I read something on somebody's Insta story the other day that said growing your audience on Instagram or on social media is way more of a science than it is an art. Right? And so like, yeah, it's cute to think, oh, this person is just hilarious and people just share their videos and that's how they got all their followers. That's not really the case. There's a lot of group chats behind the scenes with people like shouting each other out intentionally, right? To get like to boost each other up. Like one of my things is like community over competition. Like it's a pretty popular hashtag on Instagram, and it's true. You get so much further when you got a team of people with you versus when you're trying to do something on your own. So yeah, we have group chats. And
so can I slide into the community of teachers?
Well, you're not a teacher.
If I do teach, I'm like I'm teaching the School of Hard Knocks.
Stop it.
Like, I just need y'all shout outs. Because Esther's beating me here at these numbers.
Like I was just talking about Edson the other day. Like
yes.
So
I was talking to him the other day, and I'm probably going to have him on, right?
Yes.
So Edson Viapre, the Viapre Project. So make sure you guys check them out. But so he was sharing with me about his community that he's built, and he's actually one of the bigger bloggers.
Yes.
But dude, like just the real relationships that they're building. Because sometimes when you think of community, or at least myself, when I think of online community, I don't think of it really having a potential to be like a genuine relationship. It's just kind of like, okay, we're online and we're helping each other out, whatever. But like some of the relationships he's building are like legit. Like he's gone out with them. They've met up some places and like kind of life-changing stuff. So is that what you're finding with your community?
I am. And I was shocked to find that, right? Like people...
Maybe you'll find your dude in there. But anyway, go ahead.
In Jesus' name. Gentlemen, I check all my DMs.
Whoa. So listen, guys, sidebar, we're going to take a little PSA break real quick. If you would like to slide in the DM, right, of Esther Brunat, is that your
Esther Brunat.
Esther Brunat, right? On Instagram, slide in her DM. We're not doing baby daddies though.
No.
Preferably no kids. If you're divorced, I mean, we'll think about it, but preferably not previously married.
You gotta love you some Jesus.
You gotta love Jesus.
You gotta have a job.
You gotta have a job and good credit.
Yes.
Please, good credit and a car, doggone it. A car. All right, so back to...
As a complete side note, I follow a girl on Instagram who did meet her husband because he slid into her DMs.
Listen, it can happen.
Yes, and they love Jesus. And anyway.
Come on, somebody.
Come on.
You know
Anyway,
what I'm saying?
planting seeds.
All over the internet.
So dead. What were we talking about?
So genuine relationships.
Right, okay, so... one of my group chats that I ended up starting with some people who, like, there was a girl who's a math teacher and then a science teacher, and we just all kind of, like, were in a similar spots with growing our audience and stuff like that. And, like, I'm meeting up with some of them when I go to Boston this summer. I'm so excited. Like, I genuinely, like, one of my friends on Instagram, like, was having, like, a tough day. Like, because people can be mean online, right? And they underestimate that, like, there's a human being on the other side of that. So sometimes people slide into your DMs and just say ratchet nonsense. Stuff. Yeah. So she was just having a tough day, and it was interesting, or I didn't realize I had felt so, like, sympathetic and empathetic towards her, you know, and taking the time to try to encourage your friends. Even though they're online friends, I genuinely feel like, yeah, like, I'm investing in your life. Like, we're on this journey together, right? So I felt it necessary to build her up. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
There was a girl who, her brother was, like, sick and in the hospital. And she was like, yo, if you're the praying type, you know, would you just lift my brother up? So I got to tell her, yeah, like, I'm totally praying for you. Those were things that I did not expect.
So would you say that, you know, you're being able to find this goal of yours, right, to be on Instagram? Are you able to see it turn into a platform for something bigger?
I totally do.
What does that look like for you?
That is an interesting thing that I don't know the answer to yet, but I've been told that I have good stage presence, right? Like, and I would not mind speaking. I'm not going to volunteer it, but if somebody asks me to, I'm game. Like, potentially in my head, I could see it starting off with, like, teacher conferences. Like, oh, hey, like, Esther, would you host for us? Or would you open up for us? Or something like that. But I could also just see it being, Esther's being funny.
I think it's so. This is what's been interesting with me watching you the past few years, right? We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
I've watched you grow into a crazy little teenager, into a young woman, right?
Yes.
When you were leaving to Panama, I thought it was the craziest idea ever, but I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
Because I'm all about young people traveling. Like, if you ain't got no responsibilities, like, travel. If you can save the money, do it.
Right.
So watching you do that, and I remember you coming home. I remember you coming back to America, and I remember I used to see you, and you just looked a little displaced. I don't know if that's even the proper word, right?
No, I would say that was a good word.
I would always see you, and I'd always like, hey, what's up? But you just always looked like, I don't know where I fit in.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to me because I knew your personality. Your best friend, and I want to talk about her. Your best friend was no longer here, right? So it's like, where do I fit in this puzzle of life, right? And I thought it was an interesting thing because I think I reached out to you a few times and I wanted to hang out with you, but something inside me was like, she's in a different season of life that she needs to find her own. Like, I can't walk with her in this season. She needs to find her own footing, and wherever she lands, it's supposed to be where she's supposed to be at. And so to see you now, right, teaching high school, I think to me, I think it's hilarious. Because I remember being in high school, like, if you would have been the teacher I had in math class, like, I'd have been all up your butt. Like, yeah, so I can see you being the cool teacher.
Right.
And then this Instagram thing is happening for you, and I'm like, this is totally, like, I can see you blossoming into who you're supposed to be.
Wow.
And I think it's amazing.
Wow. I mean, you're speaking so much life to me right now and, like, literally dropping confirmation into my life. Like, not even joking.
Because I've watched, someone was asking me the other day about success, right? And I think sometimes success is, everyone has their own idea of what success looks like. But I've had the pleasure of being able to pour into so many people's lives. But not just that, like, I feel like I'm one of God's favorites, right? Because the reason why I say that is the people that God has placed in my life have never been average people.
Wow.
And so the people that I've been able to serve or impact, they've gone on to do extravagant things, right? And I'm always like, man. So with that, so like you've got Social Club, right? You've got Gavi. You've got some of these people who I've done stuff with. Marty came over to the house the other day, or not the other day, but a few months ago. He was here. We just bought a new house.
Right.
And he's looking around. And he's looking around the house and he's like, yo, we built this, right?
Wow.
And I'm laughing, but he's right. We started in this closet.
Amanda, you're the secret sauce.
I'm not the secret sauce.
You definitely.
I'm not the secret sauce. But but he was right, and so for me, I've when I see them, when I see the people who I've had the pleasure of pouring into, when I see them succeed, that to me is success. Because I feel like, God, wow, you allowed, whether it was for a few days, a few weeks, a month, few years, whatever it was, God has allowed me to have some sort of impact in their life. So when I see people living out their purpose, and I know I was a part of it, that to me is success.
Listen, what you were saying this the other day when we were hanging out at the fish place, right? That you and Elaine was like, you just like to see people win.
I do.
I feel the same way. Like, I would 10 times more likely to sit back and set you up to be launched than to be the one, oh my gosh, that gives me so much life. Like, and I think that's why, like, I appreciated what my role was when I was in Panama, right, with those students. Like, I got to just set them up to be great. Like, let you be great. I find so much I find so much. That's why I'm like, can I be those kids' teachers at Stoneman Douglas? Because I just want to set them up to be great.
Yeah, and it's like, so I struggle sometimes when I hear people that don't have. I feel like everyone should feel like that, but I know that's not everyone's gift.
Right.
But it's to see people win. I think that's why I love teachers. Right, because I feel like teachers, even though you guys are in front, quote unquote, of people, but you're really not. You guys play the background, but you guys are playing the background in building up the next generation of our leaders, and not with a lot of credit. So I applaud teachers everywhere. You guys as long as you guys are good teachers. If you guys are those freaking old history teachers that just yell at kids, like I'm not applauding you.
I agree with that 100%.
So. Your contagious laugh, right?
Yes.
You, we're kind of going off thing here, but
it's all right.
You and Jamila, right? You guys have been friends for how long?
Probably about 14, 15 years at this point. Yeah.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. And we met on a beach and she did not like me because I was hanging out with what was then her best friend. And her then best friend like had introduced me to her, and she was just like, Ebony, you know who did.
Oh, I think I know who that is.
Yeah. Anyway, so Ebony like introduced me to Jamila, and Jamila was like,
with a little stink attitude.
Yes! Like make it side eye for days, right? And I think one day I needed to get somebody's phone number, and Jamila has everybody's number, right?
Yeah.
And I say, hey, I need this number, blah, blah, blah. And I'm very direct. Like, I'm not the type of person, if I need something, I'm just going to ask you for it. So I just asked for the number, and I was like, okay, bye. Like, no small talk. That's not my thing, right? She was like, oh, you're just going to hang up? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, like, I forget what she said, but I was like, fine. She's like, we could call them together. And you know what we did? We three-wayed the person. We three-wayed the person. I asked my little question, and we hung up with Kathy Lee, and then we talked for probably like 5 hours, and it was a wrap.
I just love your friendship, right? Because when I talk to other young people about friendships, because teenagers are always dealing with friendships, and I enjoy you guys' friendship because you guys have moved. You're in different states now, right?
Yep.
She's now in North Carolina.
Yes,
you went to freaking Panama, came back. And you guys have kept that friendship. How have you guys been able to keep your friendship?
That's a great question. I think our relationship was not based on circumstances like, oh, we're high school friends, or oh, we're college friends, or we're in the season of life friends. It was because we just grew up in church. You know what I mean? And I hate to sound cheesy, but like that was like the basis of our friendship. The thing that connected us was our relationship with God, Yeah. So, and that transcends different things. And Jamila and I are both very like roll with the punches kind of people. Mm-hmm. So she had gone to El Salvador for like 3 months one year. You know what I mean? And our relationship has always been phone based. Yeah. So you could talk on the phone anywhere. So it doesn't matter where she is or I am. We have this crazy ability to just talk on the phone. Doesn't matter how long it's been, and we'll talk on the phone for hours, like about nonsense or about deep stuff or about just wherever we're at in that moment. And I think that's been one of the things that holds us together. And then our friendship is like, I will say this time blue in the face, like Jamila's like my sister that I never had, like, because like she'll get on my nerves, like I'll get on her nerves, like, so our relationship is not really based on like, oh, we have all this in common.
That's my bestie. Yeah.
Like, so I'm just like, okay, if I'm not feeling you today, like we need space. Bye. That's it. You know what I mean? So it's never like that. So that's one of the things that just keeps us together.
I love that about you guys, because I've seen that since the beginning. Mm-hmm. You guys had a great, like, it was just fun. I always saw you guys, the two of you together is just a whole bunch of laughter. Like, sometimes I can't even understand half your conversations.
Yeah, because we're just cracking up.
But what I was able to see too out of it was you guys are able to challenge each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important in friendships. I think especially now, because so many friendships can be fickle, right? We can find out from people how many deep friendships they have
Right.
these days. I've seen that with you guys. Even though you guys live in different places, like you guys are still able to challenge each other with
Yeah.
different seasons of life you're in.
And I think that's really important to me, because like I don't feel satisfied in my relationships if we don't go past that surface area. Like I want to be able to express my deepest, darkest places with somebody, and you to be able to speak into that, where I also don't feel judged, but you're also gonna challenge me in that, and you're not looking out for my feelings in the process, right? But you're looking out for my good.
Yeah.
Right? I think those are the type of relationships we need to foster, but I think it's hard because like not everybody's comfortable enough to let everybody in those spaces with them. And I've always been really okay with that with my people.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've never had a whole bunch of friends.
Right.
People think because I'm outgoing that I've got like this freaking truckload of friends. And I really don't.
Right.
Like, I legit probably on one hand,
Yeah.
can you count, like, friends. These are like people, I still have friends that, there's a girlfriend I have that I had since I was 5 years old. I just hung out with her last week when I was in PA.
Nice.
Her and I we met when we were 5. We went to elementary, middle school, high school, and college together. She was my college roommate.
What?
And then when I started making poor choices, life just took us in different directions. And then, years later, we met back up.
Right.
But I have friends that I met from when I was like 14, 15 years old that I'm still friends with. Funny thing is, they don't live here, right? They don't live in Florida. They live in Pennsylvania.
Right.
But when I go home, I'm able to hang out with them. And I mean, it's like we never left.
Exactly.
I can pick up where we left off
Those
and
are
we
the
just keep it
best.
moving, right? And we have some challenging conversations. But then here in Florida, like, I have like 2 friends or something. I don't know. But I can appreciate, for me, I've always been a person, I didn't need people to just hang out with, because I'm cool with hanging out by myself.
Yeah.
Like I can't really recall if I've ever had that girlfriend who's like, hey, let's go to the mall. Like, I don't want to go to the mall with anybody. Like, I just want to go in, do my thing, and
Right.
leave. I don't want
I'm
nobody
a lone
distracting
shopper
me.
too, yeah.
Like, if I'm going to go buy some sneakers, like, don't come with me, because then you're just gonna tell me that what I'm paying for these sneakers are too much money. Then you're gonna
Yeah.
get on my nerves, and
Yep.
just we're not having that, right? So I can appreciate friendships that challenge you. As a woman of faith, right? How has that been growing up in the church? You're all adults now, seeing everyone in ministry. You're not working in the ministry.
Right.
Most of them are.
Yes.
Right? For the most part, most of them
Yes.
aren't working in the ministry, right? How has that been for you, that journey of faith, and how are you using that to impact where you're at now?
Okay. I would definitely say like having a system of people around you is a big part of like what keeps you firm or whatever. So, I live my life to the standards that I live my life because I have people who have high standards around me. So that's super important to me. And I always think that the reason why I kept up with my walk with the Lord was because I had changed my whole friend base. You know what I mean? So I never felt this pull to, do things that other people were doing because these were my people and they weren't doing those things, So being one of the only ones in the group who is like not working at a church has always been interesting because I used to struggle, and I would be lying if I say I don't kind of second guess it sometimes now too. I used to struggle a lot though with like being the only one not being in ministry because I felt like, well, everybody else is. Am I really a true Christian? Like, I just kind of felt like that was the mark of like being a successful Christian. Like, you just go work at a church now, right? So,
it is not, ladies and gentlemen, but go ahead.
It is not. And I would even venture to say that like it's kind of safe, like as a Christian. So anyway, I'll leave that there. So I work, in a very public school where I like really can't like preach Jesus to my kids or whatever. Moved back from Panama because I worked at a Christian school in Panama and working at a public school now. I remember asking the Lord when I moved back, an area of my life that I would like to sharpen or get better in is like sharing the gospel. And like being a Christian, it was always hard for me. I like literally like tense up when somebody would like bring up religion or something like that. I'd be like, let's get out of here. How do we get out of here? Like, you know? And I've grown in that because it's so much a part of my life that it kind of like just spills out. Like people say that. I really learned that when I moved back home. So I was really like, I have a good friend, Kristen, like she works with me. When I had moved back, you know, we were just talking about life. We had the same planning period. So we would just sit downstairs and talk and grade papers at the same time, right? I would just tell Kristen about my life. She would tell me about hers. And we became such good friends and are such good friends that it took away the anxiety that I used to have about sharing my faith and talking about it. Because people always said, oh, people are going to think you're weird and they're going to make fun of you or whatever. But if you're really good friends with somebody, if you've actually built a solid relationship with somebody and that person loves you and you love them, it's not going to be weird. And so when I realized it wasn't weird was when Kristen invited herself over to my house on a life group night. Like she was just like, yeah, I'll just come.
I'll
like
come
this
over.
is like this is a thing that you do.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she came over. It was like uncannily the lesson where we were talking about inviting people to like, so she's there and she's like, this is so funny because I basically invited myself here and I never look at Esther thinking like, oh, Esther's like trying to like trap me or anything like that. And I remember her, she said the sweetest thing. She was like, Esther's always supporting me and everything that I do. So I just wanted to come because I wanted to support her.
That's awesome.
I was like blown away because like, I, in my head, had made sharing Christ this big thing, this thing that was like scary, this thing that like brought anxiety. And it's not that serious. It's not that serious. Like if it's genuinely a part of who you are, it's just going to flow out. And I would say that you need to be in spaces where you genuinely build relationships with people, not with the end goal of trying to convert them, but just with the end goal of wanting to be a good friend to these people. I mean, that experience in and of itself changed the way that I carry myself as a Christian. I don't stress about like, oh, am I being Christian enough or anything like that. Like, I don't stress about it because it's going to come out when it needs
just
to.
Who you are.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I need to prove that to anybody or anything like that. It is what it is, you know?
You said something so important. Now, some people are called to be in the church.
Agreed.
To be pastors and all that stuff. But it's like you said, sometimes it can be a safe zone.
Yeah.
And we allow ourselves to get so stuck in there that we forget how to talk to people outside of the church. What you're doing, being able to teach at a high school, you're teaching this next generation of leaders, right? Like you have the ability, the opportunity to impart something into them. Right. You don't necessarily need to speak the gospel to them because I mean it's forbidden. One. But just your life, you know, just the way you live life, the way you love on these kids, the way you speak life into them. You know, they'll be able to walk away and know, like, I know Miss Brunat. There's something different about her. And I believe that's what God has called us to do, that is take those moments, welcome the inconvenience, be inconvenienced just for a moment.
Good. Welcome the inconvenience.
And that can just change that person's life. And so I think I'm huge on that. Like, my big thing is, how are we impacting culture? And for me is that, like, anything that's around me is the culture I live in, and I want to be able to be an impact to that.
Yeah, for sure.
So a word of encouragement for you. Dealing with these young people, you know, keep doing what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I love what you're growing in on Instagram. And I just pray that in everything that God positions you in, that it will be fruitful.
Oh, thank you, Amanda.
Is there anything else that you want to say?
I cannot right now.
So tell the people how they can follow you. And all that good stuff.
Okay, so you can totally find me everywhere at Esther Brunat. You can find me at Esther Brunat on Twitter. I'm not really doing anything on there, but you need to come follow me on Instagram. That's really the big deal. I'm good for a laugh every weekday. So at Esther Brunat, ESTHER. BRUNAT. Okay.
And she's single, guys, so slide in the DM, feel free. Nothing crazy, no no crazy pictures, because we deleting them joints, okay?
Yes, we are. And blocking you.
So listen, guys, thanks for joining me. That was my homegirl, Esther Brunat. Make sure you guys follow her on Instagram at Esther Brunat. She is the funniest person you will ever meet. Just laugh at her students and all her crazy foolishness. But, so check it out. You're listening to Kicking It with Butter, and I'm going to leave you with my girl Wanda's new single. Make sure you guys enjoy it, featuring Byron. All right? I'm going to check y'all later. Peace.
Liddy, it's a vibe, feeling elevated. Glory on my mind, mama, look, we made it. Winning all day, praise up to Yahweh. Feeling blessed, I'm too saved. Feeling blessed, I might break us. Looking at my life too lit. Soul stay clean at the fit. Baby, I ran down like drip. 808s coming with the hits. Looking at my life too lit. Soul stay clean at the fit. Baby, I ran down like drip. 808s coming with the hits.
Hey, thanks for kicking it with me today. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And do me a favor, if you can just rate the show, let people know what you think, that would be awesome. And be sure to follow me online at Kicking It with Butta. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. All right, I'm going to catch you guys later.